Hi everyone, welcome to yet another chapter from class 9 NCERT Biology, and today's chapter is tissues. So when we talk about tissues, we'll be first talking about or we'll be dividing the chapter into two different parts, that is animal tissues and plant. But to start with, we should understand exactly what are tissues. We have already learned or we have already understood what is cells. We have discussed that cell is the structural and the functional unit of life. So tissues is the next step when we move ahead from cells. Basically, when many cells come together, they form a tissue. To start with, I told you what are tissues. They are a group of cells that are similar in structure and they work together to do a particular function. They are of similar structure and they work together for a particular function. So all the body parts are made up of tissues. So any body part of any living being or living organism are made up of tissues. Now these tissues make up what I told, that make up the organs, finally the organ system, and then the whole organism. So when we start, or we'll be talking about first the plant tissues. See, there is so many types of tissues that is there for the plants. But yes, we have to understand, we have to learn. Once you learn or once you understand what is there in this, it becomes very easy to remember. So to start with, we can divide the plant tissues into broadly two groups. The first group is the meristematic tissue and the second group is the permanent tissue. The meristematic tissue, the name suggests that it is a division or it is a particular tissue which is under continuous division. It divides or keeps on dividing continuously. So meristematic tissue is the dividing cells, that is mostly the growing cells. The areas of the plants which are under continuous growth comes under the meristematic tissue. But it is not only a plant that needs a growth. It has different other functions also. So for all those other activities, there are other kinds of tissues that are related to, and those mostly come under the heading of permanent tissues. So they constitute the rest or the part of the organism. So meristematic tissue and permanent tissue. Under meristematic tissue, we can discuss or we can divide it into three broad categories. First is the apical, intercalary and lateral. As the name suggests, apical, epic means apex, towards the apex. So it can be the shoot or the root apex, the tip of any part of the plant. So basically the apical tips of the stems and the roots, and they are mostly or predominantly influence growth. Apical meristems mostly, and it is always predominantly, that is showing or shows growth. So apical meristems are those parts that is the tips of the roots as well as the stems. Now the intercalary. The name suggests it is the intercalary, so it is between the two, that is the internode part. That is the internode part, may it be the root or the stems. So it is the near the nodes and increases the node. Node has to increase in size. So along with the tip, the node also has to increase in size. So even the node, the part of the node also has to undergo some division so that it increases in size. And lastly, it is the lateral meristem. Lateral meaning it is the sides. So it grows or the cell starts differentiating or the cells start dividing towards the side of the stem or the root in order to increase the width, to give increase in the diameter of the stem. That is the intercalary growth takes place, and the intercalary meristems comes into action. It starts dividing and this starts, and slowly the diameter starts increasing and the intercalary region starts to grow in size. So this is the sides or the sides of the stems and the root, and it increases the diameter of the same. So the meristematic, under meristematic we come under only three types of tissues, that is the apical, intercalary and lateral, that is the apex, the middle, and the lateral means the increasing of the dia or the lateral sides of the stems and the roots, so that the plants get a sturdy diameter to take in the weight of the plant or take in the weight of the tree. Now we move on to the permanent tissue. So what is a permanent tissue? When we talk of the permanent tissue, again it gets divided into two big subheadings, that is simple permanent tissue and complex permanent tissue. Simple permanent tissue and complex permanent tissue. The name suggests it is simple, so because it is made only of one type of cells. It is made only of one type of cells, whereas the complex, the name suggests it is constitutes of different types of cells. So a particular tissue constitutes of different types of cells together. So it is called a complex. Simple, it is only one type of cell. Now let's understand under simple what is there. First thing is parenchyma, collenchyma and the sclerenchyma. So the parenchyma, you can see the parenchyma, the cells are not very tightly arranged. Their cells are loosely arranged. So inside the cells or within the cells, you can see the intercellular spaces. So the cells are all of the same type and has some intercellular spaces. This is found mostly throughout the plant body you will get to see. And parenchyma, under parenchyma you can divide it into two more specific type of tissues, that is the chlorenchyma and the erenchyma. See, parenchyma, the main thing is that the parenchymatic cells or the tissues will have lots of intercellular spaces between them. So even the chlorenchyma and the erenchyma also constitute the same thing, the same characteristic of the parenchymatic cells or parenchymatic tissues. That is, these both have lots of intercellular spaces. Now chlorenchyma, as the name suggests, this is mostly green in color because of the presence of chlorophyll. Chlorenchyma. So because of the presence of chlorophyll, so this has this chlorenchyma name given to it. So basically it is induced or it is used during the process of photosynthesis as it contains chlorophyll. And erenchyma, as the name suggests, erenchyma, so it has a lots of air within the spaces and it is mostly found in the plant which are water plants, which are growing on water because they need to be light, they need to float on water. So the intercellular spaces has to have lots of air within them in order to make it light in weight. So the erenchymatic cells or tissues are present. You will see them in the lotus stem, you will see them in the plants, those are all which are all growing on the aquatic plants. So erenchyma, another type of parenchyma which helps in the plants to float and found mostly in the aquatic plants. So under parenchyma, chlorenchyma and erenchyma. Next we move on to collenchyma. The collenchyma is also a single layer of cells and it helps for the structural support and function. It does not have that much of intercellular spaces like that of parenchyma. It is quite compact and it has another thick outer lining outside the cell. So give to support and protection, to give a proper support, protection. And last is the sclerenchyma. The sclerenchyma. Here you can see the sclerenchyma. These sclerenchymatic cells or sclerenchymatic tissues gives lots of strength and support because it hardens the outer layer of the plant. It hardens the bark that you see of the plant consists of sclerenchymatic cells. Now the sclerenchyma cells or the sclerenchyma tissues, sorry, not the cells, it is the tissue, they produce or they have presence of another membrane that is called the lignin. It is lignin, and this lignin gives a hard outer covering, or this gives a rigid structure to the cell which helps in the strength and provides hardness to the plant as a whole. So it is the under simple permanent tissue we can constitute or we can differentiate into parenchyma with lots of intercellular spaces, collenchyma which gives a structural and support and protection to the plant and has a lining outside the cell which helps in the giving structure and protection, and sclerenchyma which are quite rigid, and the presence of the lignin also helps to give in the strength and hardness to that of the plants. Now parenchyma can again be divided into chlorenchyma and erenchyma, and under this the permanent tissue we come to the complex permanent tissue. What is the complex? I told you complex permanent tissue is that type of a tissue which consists of more than one kind of cells. So under this comes the two main important it is the two main important function system in the plants which is absolutely necessary for the plants because they are the xylem and the phloem, because without them it is difficult for any plant to survive, because xylem is that particular tissue which helps in carrying the water and then raw nutrients from the roots to different parts of the plants or to the leaves of the plants, which is utmost necessary for the life maintenance of the life for a plant. And the another tissue is phloem, which is also which gives or which takes the prepared food from the leaves to different parts of the plant, which is also very necessary. One takes in the raw materials for the preparation of the food, that is the xylem, and the second takes in the prepared food to different parts of the body. Without these, it is difficult for a plant to survive. But we should remember that xylem has an unidirectional flow, that is xylem flows only from top to bottom, that is it flows against the gravity, whereas the phloem, it flows either side, that is it is bidirectional flow, because as the food needs to be relocated in all parts of the body, all parts of the plant body, so it has to move on either direction, maybe towards the gravity or against the gravity. Now, because they are complex permanent tissues, xylem and phloem both consist of different types of cells. That is, xylem consists of the tracheids, vessels, xylem parenchyma and the xylem fibers, whereas phloem consists of the sieve tube, sieve plates, companion cells, phloem parenchyma and the phloem fibers. The last two, that is xylem fibers and the phloem fibers, they are actually dead cells. They are actually dead cells which is there, and the other three and the other four for phloem, they are all living. These are living cells. So this is all about the tissues or the plant tissues which we need to understand or know about. So what we have done, we have first divided it into meristematic tissue and permanent tissue. Under meristematic, we have divided into apical, intercalary and lateral, that is tip, internode and the sides for the increasing of the diameter. And under permanent tissue, we have divided into simple permanent tissue and complex permanent tissue. Under simple, we have come under parenchyma with lots of intercellular spaces, collenchyma providing structural and support function, and sclerenchyma due to the presence of lignin presenting or providing rigid nets and proper strength to that of the plant. Under parenchyma, again two types of tissues are there, chlorenchyma with lots of intercellular spaces and presence of chlorophyll, so it helps during photosynthesis, and erenchyma, it is also there, it has lots of intercellular spaces, and due to this it is present in the aquatic plants which help the plants to float. Under complex permanent tissue, we have two types of tissues, that is xylem and phloem, each consisting of different types of cells, but they are very important. One, xylem helps in the transport of the raw materials and water from the roots to that of the leaves, whereas phloem takes that prepared food from the leaves to the different parts of the body. And this is all about the plant tissues. So now let's move on to the animal tissues. When we talk of the animal tissues, now animal tissues can be divided in four types. That is epithelial tissue, nervous tissue, connective tissue and muscular tissue. Epithelial tissue, nervous tissue, connective tissue and muscular tissue. Let us first talk about epithelial tissue. Under epithelial tissue, we have three types of tissue, that is squamous tissue, columnar and cuboidal. We have squamous, columnar and cuboidal. So under squamous tissue, we should remember or we should see that squamous tissue, there are two types, that is simple squamous tissue and stratified squamous tissue. The name suggests simple squamous tissue. When we are talking of simple squamous tissue, the name suggests it is simple in nature. That is, it is a single layer. It is a single layer of cells and they are present, and now where they are located, see, it is a single layer of cells and they are located in the regions where the very thin layer of tissues are required, which we have to keep it in mind. So they are located in the blood vessels, in the alveoli of the lungs, which are very minute in structures and they are very thin layering of tissues are required. So it is present in the blood vessels, the alveoli of the lung, which needs tissue but it to be very thin. And the next is the stratified squamous. that is their vital layer. You can see there are many number of layers. Here it is only single layer. Here it is 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 6, 7, 8 layers are there. It is it is like the squamous single layer, but layers after layers get stacked together and quite a number of layers are formed. It is multi-layered, so it is on the skin, because we can understand the skin is a multi-layered tissue, because skin is a multi-layered tissue, and also the inner lining of the esophagus. And next is the columnar tissue. Columnar means, the name suggests, it's like a column in nature. It is little bit on an elongated structure. You can see here the structures are elongated. It looks like stratified squamous, but stratified squamous has multiple layers. Here they are not layers. Here it is one cell itself, but they are elongated in nature. They are little on the long nature, while the nuclei are towards the base. The nuclei adds down. It is the inner lining of the stomach and the small intestine. So you can understand this, they are long in nature. They are long little bit on the taperings, that they are long, and they are present on the inner lining of the stomach and the intestine. The next in the cuboidal. The cuboidal, the name suggests, it forms a cube-like structure. It forms a cube-like structure, and mostly they are not so long like that of the columnar, and they do not have that much multiple layer like that of the stratified squamous, and they are mostly present in the secretory glands, may it be the oil glands, the sweat glands, the oil ducts, all this, the salivary gland ducts, mostly in the secretions. Wherever secretions take place, that is the presence of the cuboidal epithelial tissue. There is the presence of the cuboidal epithelial tissue mostly at the places of secretion. May it be the sweat glands, may it be the salivary duct, may it be your oil glands, all this. So this is about the epithelial. So epithelial gets divided into squamous, columnar and cuboidal. Under squamous we have simple squamous and stratified squamous. Now next, moving on to the nerve tissues. The nerve tissues, we can understand when we see or when we think about the nerve tissues, the first thing that we think about, that is one nerve cell, that is a neuron. So basically the nerve tissues are composed of all neurons, and we get to see them, that is in the nerves, the brain and the spinal cord. So we know very well where are these to be found. So for each of these tissues we must very well know the location of the tissues. May it be for plant, may it be for animals. We should understand where are they located. So the nerve cell, you can see a nerve cell, it is like a stem-like structure. It is like a stem-like structure which has a cell body, or this is known as a cell body. This part is known as the cell body or the soma, and this is called the axon. This part is called the stem-like structure, is called the axon. And these thread-like structures which come out from the cell body or the soma, they are called the dendrites. They are called the dendrites. Now the message from these dendrites is taken up for this dendrite, and they travel through the cell. This is the nucleus of the nerve cell, and they travel through the cells, or they travel through the nerve cell, and these are the axon terminals or the nerve endings. Now these are again connected. There is one space called the synapse, and again they are connected to the dendrites of the next neuron. So the message that is carried from the dendrites of this neuron passes on to this nerve cell, and through these nerve endings or the axon terminals, again it passes on to the dendrite of the next nerve cell, and this way the message is carried, or the nervous impulse is carried from the brain to the position, to the place of requirement, or from the place of requirement to the brain or the spinal cord, whichever is necessary. So we have discussed about the epithelial and the nervous. Next, let's move on to the connective tissues of the animals. So this is quite a lot of the animals or the connective tissues, but yes, we have to learn it. If we understand it, it becomes very easy to remember. So let's start with the connective tissue. Now there are different types of connective tissue which is there in animals and also in human beings. The first connective tissue, so connective tissue, the name suggests that it connects. It connects from one part of the body to that of the another. So what are they? So first connective tissue is blood. If you remember that blood is the biggest connective tissue because it is present in each and every part of the body. So first is the blood. So when we talk about the blood, it is a huge connective tissue because it is present in every part of the human body. So blood is mainly composed of plasma along with RBC, erythrocytes, WBC or the leukocytes, and the blood platelets or the thrombocytes. The RBC or the red blood cells or the erythrocytes, as the name suggests, this present and it involves in the taking or the transportation of the oxygen from the lungs or from the heart to the different parts of the body, and carrying of the deoxygenated blood from the different parts of the body back into the heart and finally to the lungs for oxygenation. And it also carries the prepared food from the stomach or from the small intestine to that of different parts of the body. The WBC or the white blood cells or the leukocytes, they are the soldiers of our human body. They are the soldiers, they are the army. They are the ones who fight with any foreign invasion, any foreign body which comes and attacks our body. They are the soldiers, they are there to maintain the body or to protect our body. And finally, the platelets or the thrombocytes. The blood platelets or the thrombocytes are an interesting feature. They are present in the blood and they are help in blood coagulation. So what is blood coagulation? Supposedly suddenly we get a cut on our skin or we get a cut on our body. Immediately blood starts to ooze out. But it is that platelets which helps in the coagulation or stopping of the blood flow. Now WBC, the WBC or the white blood cells can again be divided into five different types of cells. That is neutrophils, basophils, eosinophils, monocytes and lymphocytes. Neutrophils, basophils, eosinophils, they are all having different types of the nucleus shapes. The neutrophils is mostly composed of 3 to 7 lobed nucleus. They are all interconnected with each other, but they are lobed nucleus, whereas basophils are S-shaped nucleus. Eosinophils have 2 lobed nucleus which are interconnected. You can see the connection. Monocytes and lymphocytes, one is bean shaped and the other is large shaped. But this monocyte and lymphocyte, what they do, instead of fighting with any foreign invasion or any foreign body, they simply go and engulf the foreign particle in order to swallow it up or in order to just eat that up, in order to remove that foreign particle completely. They don't go or start any war with it, but they immediately engulf and just try to swallow it, so just to remove of the foreign body. This is how these works. So moving on to after blood, we have discussed about the RBC, WBC, platelets and the different types of WBCs. Let's move on to the bone. The bone provides a structural framework and structure of our body, which is important for any living being. Otherwise, we would not have been able to stand, sit or do any of our activities. The next is the ligament. The ligament and the tendon, which is very similar. We think it to be a very similar in function, but it is not so. Ligament, connections of the two bones, connection of the two bones that constitutes the ligaments. That is like that of the wrist. The moving of the wrist, if we can understand here, it gets connected from bone to bone, and it is the movement of the ankles or near to the ankles, it is the ligaments or the connection of the two bones, and whereas tendon is the connection of the muscle to that of the bone. This what we do. This what we do gives is here this bone is connected to the muscle over here. So this is the tendon. The cartilage, that is the surface of the joints. It looks like a bone, but it is not that rigid, that like that of a bone. Like the ears, we have the nose. These have a particular shape, but they don't have bones. So it is like a membrane, a thick membrane like structure which provides, but it is not as hard as a bone. Next is the areolar tissue between the skin and the muscles. Between the skin and the muscles, this is the presence of a thin layer of the tissue. And last is the adipose tissue. It is the tissue that is found just below the skin, and the characteristic of this tissue is that it stores the fat. The excess amount of food or excess amount of the digested food is stored in this adipose tissue in order to the body always keeps a backup if it doesn't have food, so it uses that food. But so it so happens that this food keeps on getting extra and the body keeps on storing that. At one point of time, this extra stored food become excess and it leads to weight gain and finally into obesity. So we must be always very sure of how much we should eat. If we are overeating, we should make sure that we give out or we make it burn out so that there is not much storage of the fat by that of the adipose tissue. Finally, this is the muscular tissue. So when we talk of the muscular tissue, we'll divide muscular tissue into two main heads, that is voluntary muscles and involuntary muscles. The involuntary muscles, which understand or the name explains that it is under our control. We can control these muscles as and how we want. Whereas involuntary muscles are those muscles which are not under our control. So these, what are how they function, we cannot have a say in that. So under voluntary muscles, there is only one type of muscle, that is the skeletal muscles, which are attached to the skeletal bones, that is the muscles in our hand, in our legs. If we want to use that muscles, we can use that. If we don't want, we cannot use that. So it is alternate. So these muscles are under our control, and if you see the muscles, these have some striations type of thing. So basically they have alternate dark and light bands, alternate dark and light bands. That is how they look at, and this is the under voluntary control. So that is under our control. Now moving on to the involuntary muscle, that is there are again two types of involuntary muscles, that is the smooth muscles and the cardiac muscles. The smooth muscles helps in the movement of the digested food and also movement of the blood. So these muscles are mostly present, as the name suggests, these are mostly present on the inner lining of the stomach or on the inner lining of the intestine. So these muscles are mostly present, and the smooth muscles in the inner lining of the stomach and the intestine, and this helps in the movement or the digestion of the food, the movement of the digested food, and these are not under our control. And finally, the cardiac muscles, as the name suggests us, this muscle is only and only found in heart and nowhere else in the human body. So this is a very special type of a muscle which keeps our heart going. It helps in the functioning of the heart. So this muscle is very important, as it is not found in anywhere of the body, and these muscles are not get regenerated, or the wear and tear cannot be rectified. So we should take proper care of this muscle, especially the cardiac muscle. So we should maintain our heart properly. We should do all that is needed to maintain the proper functioning of the heart. So this is found in the heart, and this is found in the inner lining of the stomach and the small intestine, and this is all the skeletal muscles that are present on the skeletal structures, that is on the hand, the legs, feet, etc. So this brings us to the end of the chapter tissues, and this is all about the tissues, the different plant and the animal tissues that we need to know about. So if you have liked my video, please like, share and subscribe to my channel, and if you have any comments, please put in the comments box and I'll surely get back to you. So thank you. Signing off for healthy, stay safe. Thank you.